we go. Got the overlay. Boom. We are live for episode 68 of Trek Live. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about some short treks for the Star Trek Discovery. How you doing this morning, Bill?
Doing good. Definitely really excited to talk about Calypso and
Runaway.
even kind of double back to Runaway a little bit. And now that we have two to talk about, we can kind of more broadly talk about like what the short format does and you know what's good about it, maybe what's not good about it. I don't really know how you feel because we try not to talk about these kinds of things before we go on live for the show. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about Calypso as its own thing and looking at the shorts as at this point with 2 more to go before season 2 gets started in early January, mid-January.
Yeah.
So before we get into that though, have you watched any? We didn't talk about a rewatch last week when we had the other Dan on. So in like the last 2-3 weeks, have you watched anything? Is your rewatch moving at all?
It's kind of slowed down. I watched Half a Life. I think that was the last episode I watched. Great episode.
Yeah, it is.
I'm kind of winding down season 4. I'm getting close to the end, so I'm excited about that. But hopefully in the next couple weeks, I can get this rewatch moving again. What about you?
Yeah, you're right at the end on. Yeah, mine's kind of the same. It's I sped up a little bit. I think it was 2 weekends ago. I watched a pretty big chunk of episodes. The last 2 weekends I've kind of gone slow. I'm about halfway through season 2 of TOS, maybe a little more than halfway. Yesterday I watched Trouble with Tribbles, which is obviously a classic. Everybody likes Trouble with Tribbles.
Yep.
Holds up really well. It's a classic. Its reputation is well earned, I think. I think the comedy obviously really holds up and it's legitimately funny. But I think there's some substance to it too. I think it's a little deeper than maybe it's typically given credit for. I think it's a unique episode in that it really does a good job, unlike some of TOS, using the entire cast. Everybody gets like some really nice moments in it. Characters like Uhura and Scotty, obviously with the bar fight, and Chekhov, kind of in the lead up to the bar fight. Like they all have nice moments. It's nice to see like the whole ensemble kind of getting their part in an episode like that. And there's something about like it's maybe the closest thing to I think when you hit Data's Day, we kind of talked about Data's Day being like a day in the life episode. Where you can kind of see the crew with their hair down and just going through the routine of the day. And I think the Trouble with Tribbles kind of captures some of that. Like I think somebody on Twitter responded to my review and talked about how like, the crew is kind of bored in it, and you see like their need for shore leave and to just kind of relax. It's not just like it ends up being kind of a sort of crisis that they're dealing with by the end of it. But for the most part, it's very kind of relaxed and laid back, and it's cool to see the crew in that kind of relaxed atmosphere. We don't get that very often. And then I revisited. I watched the Gamesters of Triskelion for the first time since we debated that with with Jim from Trek Ranks on this show. And I have to admit, I liked it a little more this time than I have in the past. I still stand by my like thumb kind of pointed down on it, but it's got some cheesy charm to it for sure. It's got some classic TOS corniness that is endearing. And there's some witty dialogue in it with Spock in command trying to track down Kirk and the away team landing party, and McCoy and Scotty kind of chiding him and arguing with him about the direction of the search. I kind of like a lot of that stuff, but so that's where I am. I'm a little more than halfway through season 2. You're just about done season 4 of TNG. You got like 4 episodes left, so you're coming up on the end of that season and more than halfway through TNG. So both making some progress. And just as you're finishing up, kind of getting to the end of TNG, I think I'm going to be starting TNG. When I'm finished TOS, I'm going to be doing the 6 TOS movies, and then I'm into TNG, and then we'll both be in that TNG headspace. I don't think that's happened before. We're both kind of watching the same show. But I think it's happening. I think it's going to happen pretty soon here. Cool. So I think we should just dive right into Calypso.
Yes.
Maybe first off, is that okay?
Yep.
What were your first impressions? When did you watch it? Did you watch it Thursday night?
I watched it Thursday night, and not right when it aired. A little bit later on, but I watched it Thursday night. Loved it. There's so many things that I loved about it. I guess the kind of first thing I'll say, and guys in the audience will know that we've talked about this before. Bill and I are really big on Trek in that it's a Swiss Army knife, and this is just further proof that when I say Swiss Army knife, Trek can do everything, and this is proof, and I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it too, a lot. I couldn't believe how much I was loving it as I was watching it. I don't know what I was expecting going into it. I knew it was going to be the most. I thought I had the least idea of what it was going to be because it was pretty early telegraphed that this wasn't going to involve anybody we know. Like it was going to be a totally different character. Word kind of leaked out a few weeks ago that it was going to take place about 1,000 years into the future. So I just didn't know what to expect. And I thought it was beautifully done. Like you said, it proves that Trek and even kind of Discovery, like this era of Trek, is kind of capable of doing anything genre-wise and not necessarily operating in the box you're used to. I thought the actor was awesome. I thought the voice actress was awesome. I thought that both of those performances really carried it. It really depended on that. But I think it was equally dependent on the cinematography, the direction. Every single shot of the ship was gorgeous. The ship is a character in this episode, literally. And I think the camera work and the lighting and the way they shoot those sets really brings the ship to life in a way that we kind of haven't seen in Discovery yet. I don't think there's a wasted shot in the entire thing. Yeah. Have you seen the movie Her with Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me. I've seen. It's not just me. I've obviously seen a lot of people kind of pointing that out. But it's kind of very reminiscent of something like that. And I can't. I'm not a Greek history scholar or anything like that. But Calypso is apparently a term, a name from I guess the Odyssey. There's a portion of the Odyssey that is essentially this story, like a soldier who washes up ashore and has a brief kind of little love story before he gets shoveled back off to where he came from. And it was obviously very much a
similar.
I think the title pulled directly from that. Pretty well telegraphs that that's what they're doing. They're doing a Trek retelling of that story, and that's certainly nothing new. Star Trek has done this kind of thing before, where they adapt, a piece of classic literature in its own way, or a piece of film, a piece of cinematic history, in its own way, and creates its own thing off of that. This is just another example of that. But yeah, I thought it was great. I thought I think it really took really good advantage, really sound advantage of the short format. A little self-contained 18-20-minute story. I think it did just enough in terms of character development in the short time that we had. There was like no fat, no like excess. Everything was exactly what it needed to be. I think it moved really well. I have nothing bad to say about it. I thought it had a low key, like sneaky emotional punch to it that I didn't necessarily expect. Like I didn't even feel it coming. As I was watching it, it just kind of hit me at the end. Like, wow, that was actually kind of touching and
very dramatic.
All the punches landed emotionally and dramatically. That's a credit to the actors for sure. Be able to do that in 18 minutes. With unlike Trek, what we're kind of used to, there's no backstory. These aren't people we knew before the 18 minutes started, kind of like the last one with Tilly. When you do that, you kind of have an advantage that you're building this little 18-minute story off of a character that we know a lot about and run away. And I suspect in the next couple of shorts that we're going to get, the next one's Saru, and I think Harry Mudd after that. This one had to be self-contained and had to do all that legwork itself. Didn't have anything to depend on, as you know, the audience knows who these people are, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it just did a good job, I guess, story-wise, and that I really cared about these characters, and it's tough to do in 18 minutes. And these characters we've never kind of seen before, like you talked about. So it's hard to kind of care about these characters, and
For sure.
I do. So
yeah, absolutely. It left me wishing that we could find out what happened to that guy. You know, and that's like I wanted more, and I guess that's always like the telling sign that something worked, is if it leaves you wanting more, and it definitely did that. I didn't want it to end. I wanted to know more about you know, where'd this guy come from, where's it going, what's going to happen to him, what happened to the Discovery is a whole can of worms that, you know, it leads to all kinds of, you know, theories and stuff that I'm certainly curious to ask you about. You know, like I spent a lot of time thinking about, like, what does this mean if evidently the Discovery gets abandoned at some point, they have to abandon ship, and whoever's the captain at that time says hold your position no matter what, and the computer's doing that for 1,000 years. So
what
you know,
happens
certainly
to the what happens to the human race?
Nobody comes to get the ship. Is it forgotten about? Is it intentionally left somewhere? You know, it leads me to think things like, you know, this Spore Hub drive, did they have to classify it and hide it someplace so that nobody would ever find it? That's certainly something that would kind of make sense retroactively if they had to, you know, leave this thing somewhere where nobody could get to it. It leads to all kinds of interesting stuff that we've never really had before. We've never had this kind of, you know, now we kind of know what happens to the ship, sort of. I assume, you know, it's Star Trek, anything could happen. We could have been in some sort of alternate, you know, timeline, parallel universe, or who knows. There's all kinds of outs that could be had to sort of explain it away. But assuming they don't do anything cute like that, we kind of know that the ship survives, that, you know, and that the ship doesn't necessarily, you know, come back to Earth at the end of the day, and, you know, that's that. Like, something interesting happens at the end of this ship's journey that hopefully we'll get to see kind of play out. And we've never kind of had that sort of mystery pulling us to the end of a show like that before, with kind of sort of knowing how it's all going to turn out without any real context, but at least with the ship, we know where the ship kind of stood at the end of its journey, like I said. How did you think it compared to Runaway as a
I kind of liked it a little bit more than Runaway.
I did. I liked it a lot more than Runaway.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Runaway to me didn't make me like feel this way, and I didn't like it right away, you know. This one, it was just for sure like, you know, I love this. This was great. I knew it from the beginning. Right after I watched it, I didn't have to think about it, or I mean, I thought about it a lot after, but I liked it a lot more.
I had the exact same experience. Runaway, I don't want to say it left me like completely cold. I thought Tilly was great in it. I thought the actresses both were really good. But I thought it was a little rushed, a little, I don't want to say sloppy, but I think they struggled a little more with telling the story in the short format. Without, you know, there were unanswered questions that kind of lingered in my head more. Some of the character stuff, and I don't think that was the intention with Runaway. Where this one, like I think you kind of just said, you know, as I was watching it, I knew I was loving it. Like, there was no question about it. This one landed right away. Where Runaway, I felt like I needed that second viewing. You know, I watched it that night, and I was kind of mixed on it. I went back to it the next day, and I liked it a little more. And I can say with Runaway that my thumb is inching up. You know, it's not like a full-throated, like, this is great, you know, classic piece of Star Trek recommendation or anything, but it's solid. It's okay. It'd be a B-, low B kind of grade for me. Where this one, I think I'm talking A. This is this is some of the
Easily.
best new Star Trek that I've seen in a while. I mean, I would this is up there with the best of the first season of Discovery. I would say. I think it's goes toe to toe with some of the best stuff that Discovery did last season.
Yeah.
You know, it's obviously two very different things. You know, this little independent story short, comparing it to like episodes of a big season. But I felt as good watching Calypso as I did watching, you know, Into the Forest I Go or What's Past is Prologue, episodes like that. I was really taken and surprised by it. Did it leave you more optimistic about the short kind of format? Like, did it leave you eager to see more? I mean, did it change your perspective of how the shorts are working?
It definitely changed my perspective. I wasn't really sold on the short tracks idea to begin with. I realized that I feel like they found their footing with this format, and I think this is like a good tool to kind of keep Discovery relevant and keep the fans excited and at bay while they finish season 2. And I'm excited for the next ones. I wish next Thursday we'd have one, but we have to wait another month. But I think it's a cool idea. It's again, I think it's the whole this new Discovery kind of crew that's kind of, you know, pushing into different into different directions and different formats, and obviously on CBS All Access. But yeah, it's good. It definitely changed my perspective on it.
Yeah, it definitely made me more optimistic about the idea as a whole. You know, Runaway certainly left me questioning maybe a little bit how easily, you know, Star Trek was going to be able to tell its stories in such a compact you know, format. You know, there's so much, you know, I don't know, like Runaway, and I kind of understood where some people were coming from in their criticisms of Runaway with like, how did this person get on the ship? Where's she going at the end? Like the short concept kind of is taking a story that you traditionally see in an episode and kind of condensing it down to just the bare minimums and telling it from a single perspective. I guess is what they're doing. Like, you never leave Tilly's perspective in Runaway. So the idea is that there are other things happening, you know, outside of her interactions with this person that you're not seeing. But that's such a radical departure from what we're used to in Trek. And I think after one, I maybe was struggling a little bit with like, how's this going to work? Is this going to be kind of the feeling that we're going to get every single time? Is it going to be this sort of incomplete feeling, you know, little character aside that might work really well, but is going to leave a lot of unanswered questions. But this one, I think, took the unanswered questions and made it an advantage. You know, I think like the fact that we don't know what happened to the Discovery before this happened, and we don't know what happened to that guy after it ended, is a positive. It helps this thing. Like it makes it more mysterious and evocative, and makes me think about it more after the fact. Like, I feel like that idea, that goal that I'm assuming they were going for, they nailed in Calypso. Like all that unanswered question, open-ended kind of thing, that I think the short really is going to lean on. Really worked with Calypso. Yeah. Maybe not quite as well with Runaway.
I think for me, their goal is kind of wanting us to be left wanting more. And to me, there was two different aspects of wanting more. So after Runaway, I wanted more from that story.
Yeah.
From Calypso, it was like, I want more of like Discovery and this universe and stuff like that. Calypso was more self-contained, that kind of closed the door on some things that Runaway didn't. So there's just two different, I guess, feelings, if that makes any sense.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. Do you agree with me that the production qualities, like the production values of Calypso, the visual effects, I'm thinking of the tango sequence with the holographic image of the computer, mimicking Funny Face, classic Fred Astaire movie.
Yeah.
Like did all that work as well for you as it did for me? Like I was really taken by the cinematography and the visual flair of the whole thing.
It definitely worked for me. I know you're a big La La Land fan. It kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So
yeah,
I knew that you would like it and I would love it. So
yeah, that's a good point. It definitely did. It had a little La La Land vibe there. That stuff. It had so much kind of. It worked because the emotion of it worked. Like I believed in the loneliness of both of these characters. Like when that happens, I think it really lands. Like the emotional punch of it really works. It's and that's an amazing thing. Like I said, by that point, you've seen these characters for what, like 10 minutes?
Yeah.
And in those 10 minutes, I'm totally like wrapped into the story. And like I said, I believe how lonely the computer is. And I 1,000 years of just evolving by yourself and getting more and more advanced and having nobody to talk to. That's pretty evocative stuff. And it's also in keeping with a lot of classic Star Trek, stuff. The idea of, an artificial intelligence, evolving over time and growing to become more than its original programming is certainly nothing new to Trek. No. Data is like the embodiment of that. And the Doctor in Voyager is the embodiment of that. So this is like exactly in keeping with that.
Yep.
This is what happens when you leave an artificial intelligence kind of running. An artificial intelligence that's designed to be intelligent and designed to function as, a sort of a person, I guess, the computer of the ship. Leave it alone and turned on for 1,000 years and with nothing to do other than to, entertain itself, I guess. I guess this is sort of what it looks like at the end of the day. We never seen anything quite like that, but we have seen this idea about, artificial intelligence, what happens to artificial intelligence if you give it the opportunity to evolve, is something that has been a Star Trek staple. And I kind of appreciate when they double back to those Star Trek staples and, it reminds me of what came before, and it creates this like lineage that you can point to that like all these shows are kind of connected, and creates that connective tissue, better word, between the shows. So that made me happy. I really loved that they were diving into that sort of thing. I was thinking about, we had Dan on last week, and he kind of talked a lot about in the beginning of our show, talking about his love of TNG, and that's kind of where his intro was. He talked about Measure of a Man being one of his favorite episodes, about how, artificial intelligence will evolve over time. And, coincidentally, a week later, we get this Calypso story that is very much about that very thing. That was kind of a happy accident. So, so the next one's about Saru, and it looks like it's about the way he got off the planet that he comes from. So that's certainly really interesting. I think that's been the one that I've in my mind has been the one that I've been the most eager to see. Going back to when they announced these things and announced what they were. I know it's written by the young female team that wrote Into the Farthest I Go, which is my favorite episode of the first season. The idea of more Doug Jones is definitely appealing, more backstory for Saru. So I'm really excited to see where that goes, what kind of story that's going to be. And Calypso gives me a lot of confidence. That it'll be good. Which of the two coming up are you more to see? The Saru one in December or the Harry Mudd one in January?
Oh man, that's tough. I think Saru. I think that's probably the most anticipated short trek, besides the Tilly one. It's tough. I definitely have to go with Saru. Doug Jones, I think, just kind of puts it over the top, and his his character is such a great sci-fi, great idea, and it feels Trek, and
Yeah.
I'm excited because a lot of Discovery and the short treks have taken place somewhere familiar, the Discovery or something like that. It's going to be nice to be able to, go on an away mission to like a different planet and
Alien
kind of
planet.
explore that aspect of Discovery, because we haven't really seen a whole lot of that so far.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Getting off the ship and being on an alien planet. You're right. We had that one episode in Discovery where they kind of did that, and that's an episode that had a mixed reaction from people, which is kind of surprising, given that, like, I agree with that, but it's kind of a shame that that's what people are kind of hungry for and eager for, and they did it in one episode, and it's not necessarily their finest hour. But yeah, this I think it's called The Farthest Shore. Short that's coming up about Saru is certainly, I think, gonna go after that kind of feeling. Alien planet, off the ship. Yeah. The Harry Mudd one sounds interesting. I think I remember Rainn Wilson's like convention appearances, maybe at STLV. He was talking about it. That I think that one's going to be like a from what he talked about, like a kind of outrageous comedy kind of story. Like it's going to be off the wall, crazy, unlike anything we've seen before. So that one I think is going to be less traditional than I think what we're going to see with Saru, which is good. I mean, I'm all for that. I like the fact that they're pushing into other directions and being that Swiss Army knife, pushing the envelope and trying to do other kinds of things. Not sticking to the same old formula. So I'm eager to see what they do with the Harry Mudd thing. Apparently Rainn Wilson directed it, which will be interesting. The other thing that the last thing I'll kind of say about Calypso specifically, maybe, is the guy who wrote it, Michael Chabon, who has been getting interviewed left and right. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. If you go to Trek Movie or Trek Horror, you'll find links to interviews he's done with all kinds of outlets. He's apparently like a very high level, maybe going to be the showrunner of the Picard show. He's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. He wrote a book, a novel, Wonder Boys it's called. I haven't read the book, but I've seen the movie with Michael Douglas from about 20 years ago. I love that movie. He's a very respected author. If you read his interviews, he's got Trek cred. Like he has a pretty good understanding of like the canon, and clearly is a fan. But if this is our taste tester for like what he's capable of, that's a good thing for the Picard show. He's got the goods. Like I think you could. I think the noticeable difference between these two shorts, Runaway and Calypso, is in the writing. I think what they were able to achieve in the more compact format. Alex Kurtzman wrote Runaway with somebody else, and Calypso was written by Michael Chabon. I think the answer is evident. Like which one is maybe a little stronger in the writing. So that gives me a lot of confidence for the Picard show. This is the guy who's kind of running it. I think we're going in a good direction there.
I totally agree. Being halfway through the short treks, do you see this format lasting? Will we see it next season? Will we see it with a different series? What do you think?
I think that's going to be interesting. I would imagine that I wouldn't be surprised if they do. The thing that's going to be interesting, it sounds like CBS All Access's goal, because they keep announcing new shows and new stuff. It sounds like something I was talking about months ago, kind of the way AMC handles its schedule with The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead, trying to fill as much of its calendar year as possible with that sort of content. It sounds like CBS All Access. With zombie stuff. The CBS All Access's goal appears to be eventually to kind of have Trek content all year long, be it Discovery or the Picard show or an animated comedy, which we haven't really talked about yet on Trek Live, which we will be doing. And there's a Starfleet Academy show that's apparently in development, and there's still talk of the Khan miniseries, limited series, whatever that idea is. They keep putting out these ideas. So what's going to be interesting to me is if they continue. What they seem to be interested in right now with the short treks is they're trying to like bridge the gap and have something like taste testers to bridge seasons. What I'll be curious to see is if they still do that and have a desire to do that when there's enough new content, enough new shows where there isn't much of a gap between. If Discovery season 3 ends and you're going right into season 2 of the Picard show, for example. And before that, there was the animated show. Like if it's that sort of dynamic where there's maybe only a couple of weeks bridging the end of each season of each show, I'll be curious to see if they still do the short treks then. But I suspect, when season 2 of Discovery ends and we're getting closer to season 3, I wouldn't be surprised if there are more short treks on the horizon at that point. Because I'd be surprised if like a Picard show could happen that quickly. If it was on the way that fast, or the Star Trek Lower Decks, the animated comedy is that close to being here. I hope so. I mean, like I said, Calypso sort of gave me a lot of faith in the short format, and I'd be interested to see what they could do with more than 4. So I hope they continue with it. I think they're neat. I think they're just enough. If they're like Calypso, I'll be all for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? I mean, do you see it lasting? Do you see it as a thing that'll stick around and be a thing, or do you think it's just a quick one-off while they get other things off the ground?
I think so. I am a firm believer that as long as there's money, and there's the ratings are fine, and there's money being made, they'll still be producing these. So. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I agree. I think as long as they see a benefit to it, I'm assuming these are pretty affordable. Calypso certainly looks amazing, but a lot of it was practical, like lighting stuff. There wasn't a whole lot of like expensive stuff happening in that. And Runaway was the same sort of thing. It seems like it's a pretty affordable thing to throw together, and not many actors in either one. Pretty much a 2 in each. So as long as they're affordable and there's a cost benefit analysis that tells them that it's a positive, I'm sure they'll keep going.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting. This whole experiment that Star Trek is kind of starting to go down with lots of content. It's certainly not the first time. Everybody who's been around knows that like the 90s was kind of like this the whole time, with 2 shows for the vast majority of that decade running at the same time. But this is kind of a different approach to that sort of same idea. Times were different then. That was like 2 network shows running at the same time, sort of like 2 CSIs or 2 NCIS. Like that it's not that uncommon in today's world even to have that sort of concept, but multiple shows of kind of very different styles and tones and genres running throughout the year is going to be an interesting thing to see. I don't know. I mean, are you optimistic for the future with things? Are you eager? Are you hesitant about it? Like, what do you think about this general direction that they're going with all this content?
Yeah. One more thing about the short treks, though.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'll answer the question. I like the idea of using it as a production tool to kind of introduce, new directors, new writers, new cinematographers into the Trek kind of universe and how it's going to work. And I like to think that they're going to use that as a sandbox to kind of try out new ideas and different, whole different stories and stuff like that. So I'm excited for short treks. As far as the future, again, I'm hesitant. Being a lot of this is new, I am hesitant to kind of go full board, open the door to 8 different shows and a bunch of these different things. I just want them to be safe and careful and calculated, and they've been like that since the start. So I guess I have faith in them, but I'm hesitant. So.
Yeah, I think they need to. I think that's a good instinct. Be mindful, not biting off more than they can chew.
Yeah.
Not. I'm totally down with the idea of, different kinds of content. Different formats, like an animated comedy. Like on paper, I think that's cool. But I think it's also important not to stray too far off the map.
Yeah.
Push the envelope too far, just as a way to, justify filling as much content as possible. I think it's going to be important to make sure that each of these concepts, each of these ideas are built on a firm enough groundwork, a firm enough foundation to work. Like I'm hopeful that they're not pumping out a whole bunch of stuff and like a half of it they're like resigned to the fact that half of it's going to fail. Like half of it's not going to work for people, and half of it's going to be like quick, short-lived, and off the map quickly. Like that's something we're not really used to seeing in Trek. Like things that kind of totally flop. You know what I mean? Like Enterprise, I guess somebody flopped. It didn't run the full 7 years, but in the grand scheme of things for television, it ran for 4 seasons. It had 98 episodes. Like that's a pretty successful TV show.
Yep.
Not by Trek standards at that time, but up against like what most TV shows do that get greenlit. It was very successful. Quick failures are something that Star Trek hasn't really experienced before. So I'm hoping that that doesn't become like a common story. Like we don't have this like graveyard of failed shows that lasted a season and didn't work just because they're trying to hit as many targets as possible. Like I hope they're careful and calculated with what they're doing. But so far, like you said, I have faith in the people that are doing it. I've been on board with everything they've done so far. I'm excited by most of what they've announced. I'm at least open-minded with what they've announced. I'm very eager to talk about this idea of a comedy show, comedy animated series. I kind of know where we both stand on that. I think we both are a little, I wouldn't say that I'm like pessimistic about it, but I'm mixed on like some of that. I'm excited by parts of it, and I have a lot of questions, I guess, and I think it'll be interesting to maybe have a conversation in the next couple of weeks about where we sort of stand on that idea. But from most of the stuff that they've announced, I've been pretty unequivocally for. And there hasn't been anything that I've been like, holy crap, hell no. So for the time being, I'm on board with the direction there. Any sort of final thoughts on the shorts, the direction of Trek?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. And what about you?
No, I think I just kind of summed it up. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic about the going hot and heavy with lots of content future that we're heading into. I'm excited. It's a far cry from like 3 or 4 years ago when there was like no hope in sight for much new. There was like nothing. And just a few short years later, we're talking about oversaturation being a worry.
A thing,
Not only do we have these TV shows, hopefully we get a 4th movie with the Kelvin timeline. There's this Tarantino thing looming. Like there's a lot of Star Trek just kind of hovering on the horizon. More than a little bit. So it's an interesting time for sure. It's gonna be fascinating few years to see it all play out and these projects kind of come to light. I think there's more coming that we don't even know about. So it's gonna be interesting. Any Star Trek content you've consumed over the last couple of weeks that you want to throw out there?
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, I just definitely got a backlog of a few podcasts. I will mention one that I've got my eye on is a Warp 5 of These Are the Voyages rewrite. I've been a little not listening to Warp 5 as much. But yeah, that definitely caught my eye. So I might be listening to that in the near future. So
they also, I think just today they released a recording of I think Brandon J. Matala went to a convention in New Hampshire, I want to say, and the Trek geeks were there, and somebody from Women at Warp, I think Sue is her name. Okay. I think that's who went. They were all there, and they did a podcasting panel, like Star Trek podcasting, and I think they posted that as an episode today. So I'm definitely going to listen to that. I like those kinds of panels, with different personalities from all kinds of different podcasts together. Yeah. So I'm eager to hear that. I did listen to Trek Ranks. I'm not totally caught up on that yet. There's an episode from like a couple weeks back that was the coolest Star Trek episode titles. I thought that was really good. And then they just did a Voyager Guilty Pleasures episode.
Yeah, that's on my list. Yeah.
I'm waiting to listen to that, but I'm definitely excited to hear that. Yeah, so I'll throw them some love.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're gonna keep this a little bit shorter. This episode, in light of last week's episode, was a long one. It was definitely a great discussion. So if you want to catch up on that, definitely do so. It was a great discussion. Bill and I had a great time. Yep.
Definitely. Yeah. Last week's episode was one of my favorites to this point. So definitely check that out. If you're ever interested in, like I am, in hearing people's first impressions of, Trek as they're kind of encountering it for the first time. I think we had a really good guest who just hit a whole bunch of it for the first time. So yeah.
Yep. You guys know the drill. The discussion doesn't have to stop here. Come on our Twitter, Facebook, I almost said Discovery. Come over to Discovery, no. Come over to Discord. We kind of have a group chat going throughout the week and into the weekend. Yeah, so there's a bunch of discussion going on outside of the main show. Yeah.
I think we'll be back. Are we back next week?
Yes, we will be back next week. Yep.
We'll be back next week with something. We'll announce a topic in the next few days, as we usually do.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that. And we're getting close. January's right around the corner. New Star Trek content's coming. Beyond the shorts, like weekly new episodes are not that far off. So yeah, good stuff's on the horizon.
Yep. This has been episode 68, I believe. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, everybody.